Happy Friday, folks. Welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Robertson, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. Jason, I am trying to stay even keeled today. The last couple episodes, we get all riled up here. That is my goal today, but by the end of this hour, Jason, no promises.
I gotta say, Todd, it's we do this podcast in large part because it's kind of like therapeutic for Todd and I, because we see all this nonsense during the week and we're like, we just have to share with people how ridiculous this stuff is. And Todd, you probably watched more of the DNC than a man should. What was your overall thoughts?
It darkens your soul. Honestly, I don't understand the people there. They must have no soul left. I'm watching for 5 minutes. You're like, okay, I'll listen to Barack Obama speak. What is he going to lie about now? How is he going to divide America more? And you just can't. Anyone with a functioning brain at this point and a straight moral compass, you just can't listen to this gibberish anymore. And it's more than just gibberish. It's lies, it's untruths, and it's pure hatred. My takeaway is that they hate you. They hate everybody. They're using these Hamas protesters as pawns. The media is not covering the chaos on the streets outside of Chicago. We've got a clip of that for you folks today. Just pure evil and hatred emanating from the DNC. We've got our favorite Republican, Adam Kinzinger, speaking there. So we got a clip of him later today. It is unreal what they had people trot up on stage and say. And you've got these sheep crying because Kamala Harris, and I don't think we have this clip, Jason, but some lunatic compared Kamala Harris to Jesus Christ. That's their Mount Rushmore of heroes, Jesus and Kamala.
And it's funny, when we came up with the title of DNC Was Wow. Folks, let us know in the comments if you watched any of this or you saw the clips. We're going to go through some of our highlights or lowlights. But Todd hit the nail on the head. They hate you. Everything up there is Trump is bad, MAGA's bad. We follow on Twitter. The Trump campaign would track the number of times they mentioned the border or fentanyl or inflation. And it was single digits for each of those every day. And they would mention Trump over 100 times, 150 times. Their whole campaign is we hate MAGA, anybody America first. I mean, they have an abortion bus set up outside. And as of yesterday, they have killed 25 babies. And can you imagine how demonic you need to be to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to the DNC, and you know what I'm going to do to celebrate it? I'm going to kill my baby.
With no shame. They will have remorse later on. That's the lie getting told to these women. They will wake up one day and be like, my God, what did I do? But for now, they're out there celebrating that. The DNC is propping that up. And if you didn't need more proof that they hate people, they hate you, look what they're allowing these women to do to themselves and do to these babies.
Right. Yeah, it is the most insane thing I've ever seen. And they bring in all these celebrities and all these rich people, and everybody on stage is a multimillionaire, which we're going to talk about.
Where are we going to talk about that?
All these celebrities and acted like they're one of you and I. And this is the biggest psyop ever. I mean, 6 weeks ago, they were telling us the economy's fine. Joe Biden's not a retard. And Kamala Harris, everybody agreed she was horrible. And now 6 weeks later, they're like, everything's perfect in the country. If it isn't, it's Donald Trump's fault. And Kamala's going to fix it in her first week in office. And oh, by the way, she is an astute policymaker, and we're lucky to have it's the most insane thing.
Yeah, just high level, Jason. Then we got to dive into the clips. Folks, we have like 20 videos to play today from the DNC. It was that wild. You would think, listening to these speeches, that Donald Trump was president right now and that we had this fascistic MAGA regime in the White House. They're talking about on day one, we're going to fix this. We're going to solve the border. We're going to figure out the fentanyl issue. We're going to restore freedom in this country because he might continue to weaponize the Department of Justice and the FBI. People actually said that.
Oh my God, that was one of my favorites.
Who wasn't part of the current incumbent administration for the last 4 years, creating these problems. They're just going to gloss over that. They're going to detach her from Joe Biden and say, when she's president on day one, she's going to fix what you're feeling right now.
Right.
Gaslighting has reached insane levels. And like we keep saying, the sheep are clapping for this. I don't relate to them at all. I can't understand it.
Yeah, and it's funny, Vanessa already coming in hot with the chats. And it's funny, I think this sums up the Freedom from the Press podcast position on the whole abortion issue. If you don't want a baby, as long as you have the choice, to lay down and get that way. Like, yeah, if you don't have a baby and you aren't able to take care of a baby, you have the power to choose who you sleep with and have unprotected sex with. And
Jason, we're very pro-choice here. We are choosing abstinence, choosing protection, choosing adoption, choosing to have the child. We're very pro-choice when it comes to babies. We are not pro-abortion vans outside of the DNC.
right. Oh my God, Gary sums up the thing too. Sorry, they won't like the language, but
No.
she's not fixing it. She had 4 years effort.
And
Gary, that is it.
That's it. But they're pretending that didn't happen. And all these Dem voters are like, I wasn't going to vote for Biden, but I'm going to vote for Harris because she's going to fix these things. Folks,
Right.
This is the incumbent right now. She is the vice president. For years, I was told it was the Biden -- Harris administration. She owns all of this. And she's out there pretending that she's going to solve your woes.
Well, and it's funny too. They framed up from the beginning that this was the Biden-Harris administration. Like, they use that language more than any presidency I've seen in my life.
It was never Obama, Biden, Trump, Pence. That was unheard of. It was Biden, Harris.
Yeah, and he talked about she's the last one in the room. They were trying to tie her so closely to him, but now that they kicked Joey to the curb, with Kamala, it's like, hey, I had nothing to do with any of that. I was just the vice president. I wasn't the border czar. I had nothing to do with any of this. But day one, I'm going to fix this. Unreal.
All right, Jason, I already broke my promise. I'm already fired up. Should we get to some clips here?
Let's start. Can we start with the Cuomo clip? Folks, if you're going to pay attention to one clip, this is the one. And you didn't see this because this was aired on News Nation. Chris Cuomo, after the Democrats were done with him, threw him to the curb. And every now and then he actually acts like a journalist. And he sums up our political party because we talk about it on the show. But for those who are new viewers, we think the establishment Republican Party is just as bad as the Democrats. They're just getting paid by a different paymaster. But Chris Cuomo, this was one of my favorite clips. And like I say, to
all
most
the Dems
audience,
that think the
you
Democrats are
didn't
the
see it.
party of the working class, take a listen and take a look.
Here at the DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging, and they're going to go after corporations, whether it's in taxes, largesse, loopholes. The RNC, we heard the same thing. They're going after the elites, the two sets of rules. Let me reveal a reality to you that has to be spoken to here, okay? These are the soldiers. These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs. They take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of sweets, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at 500 grand. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid $500, $700, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true with the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high at the people who make the difference in their communities. And that is the reality of politics. And I had my producer walk around and show you those suites. Now, they're not all the same. They're not all the same. But the reality is, in 2000, they spent $300 million on presidential campaigns. 24 years later, you know what they're expected to spend? $10 billion. Do you know how much money Harris has raised in the last couple of weeks? Hundreds of millions. And that's success. A lot of it's small donor, a lot of it isn't. The most dangerous money in politics is now legal money because of Citizens United. You've got to know this. The idea that they can fight against it is almost laughable. It's almost laughable. So look and listen when you are told these things. Because I don't care what they promise you. Not here tonight, not at the RNC, not that Trump knows them, not that they don't own them. He did one of the biggest fundraisers I've ever heard of in my life out where I live. Millions of dollars a plate. That's the reality of politics.
What happened to Chris Cuomo, Todd?
Boy, I think he left CNN kind of like Tucker left Fox, and you take the leash off, and turns out they have their own ideas, maybe.
Right. I think he effectively nailed it. And folks, I wanted to play this clip first because it was a great illustration of what we've been talking about on the show. Our political parties have both been bought out by rich people. They sell us out to rich people, different rich people. Republicans used to just get paid off by the military industrial complex. Now Democrats are getting paid off by them. Big pharma, big food, all the big corporations. They're even the ones, people don't know this, they write the legislation that ends up getting brought to the floor. So they have these political action committees. They go to their House and Senate member. Hey, we wrote this up for you. Can you introduce this bill on the floor? Like you don't even have members of the House and Senate actually writing bills anymore. It's ultimately written by lobby groups. And that image of that really strikes me like watching the Colosseum in Rome, where you have all the rich elites like up at the top, and then you have all the unwashed masses at the bottom watching the show. And that's where we're at in today's politics.
100%. And they look down on them, like Cuomo was referencing, literally looking down on them. They care not for them at all. They don't care how they feel, what they think. They are simply using them as their pawns, make them think they have a voice in this, quote, democracy. But like you said, Jason, I think people would be astounded to learn that your congressman in Washington, D.C., you're not electing them to go write bills that are going to improve this country. Bills are handed to them, unless you're Thomas Massey and you just write one line and say, abolish the Department of Education. These guys don't do anything except talk a big game when they do their little hearings in Congress. Otherwise, everything you see play out in Washington, D.C. is all big money behind the scenes, lobbyists, lawyers. That is who's running the country.
It is utterly remarkable. And I have to say, too, like some of the folks, Lisa, excellent comment. It sucked and all lies, no policy in place. It's insane. Kamala, like, first policy she floated last week was no tax on tips, which was a Trump idea. And then this week she released her economic policy. It was one of the first policies she released. And it was literally the most horrible thing ever, which I don't think we'll go through it, but I'm going to put a plug in. We have a Substack we run at theamericantribune.news, www.theamericantribune.news. And the two big things she put in are wealth tax and an unrealized capital gains tax. So that means if you own assets that went up in value by X amount, you have to pay the government, even if you still own it. So just by your net worth going up. The way they're selling it is that it's only going to hit certain people initially, but everybody knows that just trickles down. Might take a year, might take 10, might take 5. You just don't know. But they do the let's just start it, get it going. But Will wrote a great piece that breaks down how horrific those economic policies are, and that'll be going up later today. So if you haven't checked it out, www.theamericantribune.news. Go check it out. It'll blow you away.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, it's a great piece, well written. It's sad, though, at the same time that is just not common sense. The fact that you have to educate people that price controls and unrealized taxes on unrealized gains are a bad thing, that half this country is voting for that. You wonder why we can't have nice things in this country, because we actually have to educate people on that still. It's just not common sense that, like, oh, maybe I don't want the government meddling in all this and taxing me to death.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because they've talked about, like, oh, we're going to build more houses. They haven't laid out how they're going to do that. But the government sent like $2 billion to build EV charging stations, and they built 8. And so I'm like, great, how many billions are we going to give them to build houses to not build houses? Our government just can't execute any of this stuff. It's insane.
And that point on no policy this entire week, Jason, I got a really short clip here. I think this summarizes the Democrat talking points, and they do it because it works, because it riles up the base. Zero substance, but just take a listen to this short clip.
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump.
That's what Democrats are running on. They think Donald Trump is in charge. They think he's going to ruin the country. And, you know, like we keep saying, the good sheep are like, yep, Donald Trump's the problem.
And it is remarkable. How do you not lay out any policy positions? And all you do is say Donald Trump bad, Donald Trump bad, Donald Trump bad. And then they keep talking about Project 2025. We could do the same thing with Project 2025. Now, President Trump has released his own campaign materials on his website, Agenda 47, which is what the 20 points of his agenda are. It's official. It's out there. So anytime you see the news media cover Project 2025 and not make reference to President Trump's actual policy agenda, you know they're lying. And I haven't looked this morning. Kamala Harris on her campaign website doesn't even have any policy positions for what she's going to do.
And Jason, we know why, because the policies she will enact as president will ruin you. They'll ruin all of us. Like, I think they have at least some common sense in the DNC. They're like, okay, we do want to do price controls. We'll float that idea out there. Everything they want to do, I like to think at least 80% of the country would kind of hesitate at, oh, they want to try this, they want to do that. So they're just going to run on Donald Trump bad. He's, this, he's that. And then when she's in office, people will look around and be like, my home got burglarized again. Where are the police? Like, why aren't they putting criminals in jail? Or, oh gosh, this whole community looks completely different because we imported half of Venezuela. And these people will never connect the dots of like, I voted for this. They'll never take any accountability or reflection on, gosh, I voted for someone that wants open borders, doesn't like white people, doesn't want to punish criminals, wants to put law-abiding citizens in jail, if they go pray at the wrong building. But this is fine.
Well, and you touched on price controls, Todd. Do you want to explain what she proposed at a high level and why it's bad?
All right, folks. So if you are Walmart, let's say, you could be Target, Walmart, Home Depot, you could be a mom and pop store. When you run a business like Jason and I do, there are costs, there are fixed costs to entering that space. You've got to pay for your building usually. You've got to pay for the goods that you sell. You've got to pay salaries and wages to the staff that interface with customers, utilities. You've got to maybe pay property taxes. There's a lot of things that go into that, marketing, branding. And then you turn around and say, in order to cover these costs, if I buy a good for 5 cents, maybe I sell it for 20 cents. But again, all of that revenue I generated still goes back to paying rent, paying bills, paying salaries. When all is said and done, Jason, I had just learned this. You would be surprised, folks, to learn that a Walmart and a Target basically make 2 to 3 cents on the dollar. For every dollar of goods that they sell, they collect 2 cents in profit. The margins we're talking about, and even some of the most efficient companies in America, are super slim. And so now what Kamala Harris wants to do is say, oh, Walmart's the problem that you're paying more groceries or your shirts are more expensive now. So we're going to say, Walmart, you can charge no more than 10 cents for an apple. We're making up numbers here. And Walmart will look at this and say, well, let's see. It costs 5 cents to get an apple from the producer, costs 2 cents to pay salaries, it costs 2 cents to pay rent. Suddenly, Walmart's losing money on every single thing they sell. And Jason, if you are a business, are you going to operate at a loss for a long time?
No.
So what they are going to do, they are going to put a ceiling on what businesses can charge, and they're going to dupe all these Democrat voters thinking, yeah, now I'm going to pay less at the store because Walmart's going to lower their prices. Wrong. Walmart's just going to stop having a grocery store that you can buy produce at. They're not going to be able to pay the producers. The producers are going to lose out on money. So now you stop producing this food. The supply chain breaks down. Walmart goes out of business, and the government is now fully in charge of your food supply if we just want to focus on groceries. And as we saw, Jason, with toilet paper in 2020, once people see that there is a shortage, people hoard, government will impose rationing, there is a black market that develops, and prices haven't gone down. Suddenly on the black market, you're paying double for toilet paper or apples or bananas or bread. And now I'm digging through the garbage can trying to eat a meal for the day. It's happened every time in history. It will happen in America if she does this. And
I spent 25 years in retail, started out as a part-time worker, ended up as regional director. Everything Todd said is true. Your average retail store, If you end up netting between 5 and 10%, you're doing amazing. Like you're selling clothes. If you're selling groceries, you're making 1, 2, 3% gross margin net, by the time you pay all the bills. That's without loss and all that stuff. Interesting fact, it's more expensive to run retail stores in urban areas than suburbs or in rural areas. Rents are higher, theft is higher, you have to pay people higher wages. So what happens to your inner city stores like your Targets, your Walmarts? They leave, and then people complain that they're food deserts. I mean, when I was a regional director at my last job before I left, if I looked at the Twin Cities market, because we're out of the Twin Cities, all of the stores in Minneapolis, St. Paul, virtually, no matter how much volume they did, they were losing money because it just got eaten up by all the other costs. And like theft is really bad in urban areas. It's remarkable. You have to pay salaries way higher in those areas than you do in others. So you end up like you just can't afford to do business in those neighborhoods. And then what's funny is they want to point to corporate profits going up. Well, the reason corporate profits went up, one, big corporations got a lot of money from COVID that still bled in. Two, you ran a lot of mom and pops out of business. And so all that money goes to Walmart, Target, those sorts of things. And they run on supply demand. So if they're selling it at whatever price, that's what they're going to charge as long as people are paying it. And if you drive prices up in small businesses so people can't afford to shop there, like even my smaller grocers around me, like we can't do our regular shopping there. It costs twice as much as Walmart. And so Walmart's not price gouging, they just can afford to because everything's gone up. So, but you drive more money to the corporations long term, drive moms and pops out of business, and the problem just get worse.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know who needs to hear this, but Tim Walz, as governor of Minnesota, shut down small businesses because he said he didn't want too much foot traffic in these places lest we spread a disease. And then Walmart, Target, Home Depot, all your big box stores stayed quite open during the lockdowns because, well, people still needed groceries. And apparently it's okay to congregate in those larger buildings with more people, but not your mom and pop. So again, Minnesota reelected him. So I don't know what to say about Minnesota there.
we're a bunch
of small business.
numbskulls.
This will utterly ruin small business because they cannot weather the storm nearly as well as your large companies that buy in bulk, can get better prices from producers. And so here we go.
Yeah, and actually, Brad on Twitter. Hey, we love when we get here from the X people.
Yeah, all right.
I call it Twitter. But government price controls is communism.
Yep. What else can you say? It is communism.
Well said, Brad. and you just end up with state-run businesses that end up going out of business.
And the government is never more efficient, so that's bad enough. But then you look at what happened in Venezuela. All of the oil money in the world couldn't help Venezuela once they became socialist, and the same process played out. People think it can never happen to me. It'll never happen in America. We're a different beast. It can definitely happen in America, and it will happen in America if we implement price controls. This is completely insane.
Well, and I don't think people realize how close we are to this. I mean, all this stuff that they're talking about, like if they win the House, Senate, and presidency, they can implement all this.
They can do this. They will do this.
They will do this.
Because you know who isn't affected by price controls? It's the elites. Not only are they so wealthy, the prices don't matter. They will always have access to this stuff anyways. It is you, the middle-class American that works 2 jobs between mom and dad, tries to get the kids to school, tries to do the right thing in your community. You will be the one that is punished. And if you are some suburban mom out there voting Democrat because Donald Trump made some private comment like 15 years ago, good luck digging through trash bins trying to feed your kids because you were so repulsed by a rich and powerful man saying what all rich and powerful men throughout human history have known. This just in, women like rich and powerful men.
Yeah, and I got to say, if this is a controversial position that rich and powerful men leverage that to have sex with women, go figure.
Yeah, look in the mirror, suburban mom, and maybe you as women shouldn't be giving that up to a rich and powerful man that abuses you. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Where do we go? We got to get to the DNC. We promised a wow show today. We preface this by saying that is the elites leading the way. Democrats are certainly the party elites between the two, but it is the uniparty, as Cuomo said. This is how Michelle Obama, we got Oprah, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, all framing up this oppression in America right now. I think we should start with Michelle And Jason, how much is Michelle worth while I pull this up?
I want to say the Obamas are worth $70 million.
Okay.
And they own 5 multi-million-dollar properties.
Okay. So keep that in mind as we listen to Michelle speak.
And before you play it too, Todd, folks, did they start a multi-million-dollar company that employed hundreds of thousands of people? Did they build a bunch of houses? Did they invent something new? Oh, wait, they've done nothing to contribute other than be politicians and speakers and that kind of stuff. So these guys are super duper rich without ever building anything.
Interesting. Let's take a listen.
Anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. They understood that it wasn't enough for their kids to thrive if everyone else around us was drowning. So my mother volunteered at the local school. She always looked out for the other kids on the block.
All right, the blood's boiling, Jason. I'm done. I'm riled up now. It's not going to be a fun episode.
Todd.
We had to preface the video by saying that the Obamas are worth an insane amount of money, only made worse by the fact that they have done nothing for society to earn that money. They sell rights to speeches, making more money in a single hour-long speech than you, the viewer, will make in an entire year. And then she is railing on the uber wealthy, saying that the rich are the problem in America, as she is worth $70 million. Don't fact check me, Facebook. We're estimating $70 million. The nerve of this woman, of this family, to say that they have faced oppression because of their skin color, oppression because it's so hard to get ahead when the elites and the rich rule the world. She is the problem. She is the very problem she is talking about.
I was going to say, just checking so that we don't get fact checked. Some of these platforms don't like us, which is why we do our Rumble only at the end, by the way. Last half hour of the show, join us on rumble.com. That's where we'll go through some things we can't say on Facebook, YouTube, that sort of thing.
It's a fun
Business
half hour
Insider. Business Insider reported that they have a net worth of at least $70 million as of December 2021.
Oh, 2021. So I can only
Or
imagine how much-
2023, sorry.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm just looking up Oprah Winfrey's net worth. I figure that will
I'm going to say
will
$4 billion if I had to guess.
Yeah, 3.5 billion as
Okay.
of last year.
Do you want to look up JB Pritzker too while you're at it? He also spoke. We have a clip of JB, I think.
Oh yeah. And just before I'll go look that up, but just to preface this, so Michelle Obama says my dad was always untrusting of somebody who took more than they needed or that sort of thing. How does a Democrat watch this and not go, well, like, why don't you give away your millions? You know, let's start with you. Because Michelle Obama famously said, like, people shouldn't take more than they need, or they should, you know, you might have to give up so somebody else can get some. Start with you. It is perfectly legal for her and Barack to write a check for $10 million to the federal government. They could write that check today. They could send it to the Treasury, and they could live their values.
You know, the IRS lets you gift to like $16,000 or $17,000 to an individual. They could write, I'm not going to do the math off the top of my head. If they wrote a $16,000 check to as many Americans as possible to maybe get down to $1 million so they can have something at least, they could do a lot of good in the world, but it is never about their money. They want to make your money disappear. They want you poor. They're not going to change their lifestyle at all. But all these Democrat voters are like, yeah, Michelle is speaking truth to power right now. There are people out there with too much. Todd Peterson, he owns a home. He has a family and 2 cars. He has too much right now.
Unbelievable.
All right.
Where do we go next? Oprah?
Well, I think, you know, if a woman...
And I got to say, too, I got to give a shout out to Fally. Fally tunes in to every show, always has real insightful comments. We got Fally from Facebook over to Rumble. We appreciated him, and we got Paul Reese from Split Rock Coffee over there. God is the only one who's going to dig us out of this mess. If my people will humble themselves and get on their knees and ask for forgiveness, he will hear us from heaven and heal our land. I got to say, folks, if you're not used to praying, now's a good time.
And Jason, on that point, let's talk 10 commandments for a second. Democrats violate every single one of the 10, but right here, we're talking about thou shall not covet. Look, Jason, I want to live in a country where it is possible for, let's say, a Michelle and a Barack Obama to maybe grow up with your grandmother, grow up poor, and work your way up and become worth tens of millions of dollars. Like, good for you in that sense. Yeah, they all earned it corruptly, but good for you that you live in a country that gave you that opportunity. These covetous assholes will lecture you all day long about this person has too much. Don't worry about what that person has. The game is rigged. I get it. But you should want to live in a country where you have that same opportunity if you apply yourself, create the right kind of business, have the right skill set. Like Michelle and Brock are very good orators. Have the right skill set to go out and make money for yourself instead of trying to steal what I have earned for my family.
Yeah, and they never give up their own stuff.
They never give up their own stuff.
Oh, let's
All right,
go
well,
to, what did
we
I
have
say
Michelle
Oprah was
worth
worth?
70 million. Should we go to Oprah worth $3.5 billion and listen to her oppression?
Yeah, and Oprah at least built a media company and stuff.
She did
so-
something. Yeah, good for Oprah before she got involved in politics.
Right.
Redwood forests, love those redwoods, to the Gulf Stream waters. I've seen racism and sexism and income inequality and division. I've not only seen it, at times I've been on the receiving end of it.
Whatever Oprah has experienced in her life vis-a-vis racism or sexism or income inequality, I will trade her right now. Oprah, you can have this. I will have $3.5 billion. And I think I have thick enough skin. I'm a big boy. I'll handle some of the racism that you've experienced. And I can be worth $3.5 billion too.
You know, and here's the funny thing about racism. I'll be honest, guys like Todd and I, we don't care if you're black, white, Asian, whatever. I'm going to make fun of Todd because he's old. Todd's going to make fun of me because I'm old. If I got a black friend, I'm going to make fun of them because they're black. They're going to make fun of me because I'm a honky. Like, this is like, people have moved so far beyond this racism stuff, but they carry racism like a shield, where if you criticize Kamala or Oprah or any of these people, it's because you're racist. I'll use a great example. I'm a Star Wars fan. They made this new Star Wars series, The Acolyte, that had black lesbian space witches. And you know what? You criticize the show and they're like, that's because you don't like the black lesbian space witches. It's like, no, the show was terrible. It was poorly written. It was poorly acted. Every part of it was bad, but they want to level it down to racism because you can't think like Oprah. It basically is making the argument you can't criticize a black person without being racist. Like, no, Oprah, black people can be stupid too, just like white people can, just like Asians. Everybody can be stupid.
Yeah, this always reminds me of the Thomas Sowell quote, the great Thomas Sowell, racism is not dead, but it is on life support, kept alive by politicians, race hustlers, and people who get a sense of superiority by denouncing others as racist. Racism is dead as far as regular Americans are concerned, but the elites will never stop dividing you. Because Dem voters are like, oh yeah, Trump's racist. You know, MAGA people are racist, so I better vote for Democrats because I'm a good person. Never mind the outcomes of these policies that they vote for. At least I can go to bed knowing I'm not a racist.
So Oprah, net value $3.5 billion. And she's talking about oppression and racism.
And income inequality. Oprah Winfrey is complaining about how she has experienced income inequality.
Right.
How is this not knocking every Dem on the head saying, like, this doesn't compute?
Right. Yeah, I don't even understand how these guys can put it together. But now we got to go to the next one, J.B. Pritzker, for those who don't know, governor of Illinois. He is the heir to the Hyatt Hotel fortune. He's a big investor in a private equity firm. He is also worth $3.5 billion. And he's a private equity guy, which are the awful people Democrats talk about. And now what's funny, too, is JD got up talking after Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders was talking about how terrible it was for people to be billionaires. And Bernie's a communist from way back. And then they bring out Pritzker.
Americans want to go to their neighborhood grocery store and not have to worry about some random guy open carrying an AR-15.
think we got the wrong Pritzker clip here. Gun
We-
control too. Why don't they promote gun control? Because that's never ended poorly for citizens that get disarmed by their government.
Right.
Yeah, let's
see what else, JV.
Okay, here's another JV. That's going to take just a second here.
Oh my God.
Boy, when you're live sometimes.
And I love when he's talking about Americans going to the grocery store, and he wants to rip on Donald Trump because Donald Trump's dad gave him 500 million or whatever the number was. JP is the heir to the Hyatt Hotel empire. He's one of the heirs. He's a private equity guy. He is the poster child for everything Democrats stand against, and they give him a featured speaking position on the DNC. And it's funny because, I mean, just a side note, they were talking about women and all that stuff. They did have Bill Clinton up there too. And Todd, I don't know if you know this. It turns out Bill Clinton had sexual escapades in the Oval Office with a young staffer, not underage, but a young staffer while he was married. And he is a featured speaker. And there's been some pretty credible evidence about him in Epstein's Island and him doing some inappropriate things when he was governor of Arkansas to women against their will. Yeah, but we're going to have him be a featured speaker. Anyway,
let me couch my response here very carefully. Allegedly, you have Bill Clinton speaking, and the very next night, Jason, they had these women on stage saying, we can't support people that treat women poorly and abuse them and this and that. Zero self-awareness that Clinton spoke. And then let's not forget that Hillary ran cover for Bill, allegedly, apparently going after some of his accusers and telling them things to stay quiet, perhaps. She aided and abetted her husband doing these things. And then at the same stage, Hillary spoke, Bill spoke. But let's support all women here. Liv the TikTok too had a tweet where she just posted a screenshot of a C-SPAN video where not a single Democrat voted to protect women's sports by excluding biological males in them. But sure, the party that supports women had Clintons on stage. Not a single Democrat voted to protect women's sports. But it's all on the up and up here. We got the other Pritzker clip if you want to go to that really fast though.
Yeah, let's see Pritzker.
Donald Trump thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire.
Hold on. They are cheering for the billionaire that we just listened to Oprah and Michelle rail against because it gives them uneasy feelings in their tummies when someone has too much and more than they need. But sure, let's cheer on Pritzker.
Trump is rich in only one thing: stupidity.
Got him.
Yeah, this is a featured speaker at the DNC. And here's the thing. If the Democrats had any credibility, Pritzker would be the guy they're ostracizing. They would never elect him. They would not support him. He is the epitome of a trust fund baby. He is everything they claim to hate. And yet he's a multi-billionaire, so they're going to put him up on stage.
And fun fact, since we live in Minnesota, we can relate to what Illinoisans go through day in and day out. During the pandemic, Pritzker had equally awful lockdown mandates, just like we experienced in Minnesota. Jason, do you remember what his family did, his wife and kids did during Chicago or Illinois' lockdowns that said you can't leave your home, otherwise grandma might die?
Todd, you aren't telling me they didn't follow it.
How did you know, Jason? His family was in Florida March, April, and May by his own admission, as he was telling his, mostly Democrat voters, because he's in office, to stay home and do nothing and be miserable.
It's unbelievable. And what's funny too, Todd, is you talk, the first clip we accidentally played was him talking about gun control. What city and state has some of the most oppressive gun control regulations in America?
Chicago, Illinois.
And what city has some of the most shootings in the world?
Chicago, Illinois.
Turns out
I win there, right? It's Chicago.
Yeah. Turns out Chicago has more shootings than many countries do in a year. And they have the most restrictive gun rights. But you guys, Our audience is going to be shocked to learn this. Criminals find a way to get weapons. How weird is that?
Well, Jason, don't you know that because Chicago residents can go to Indiana or other places, that's why we need a national ban so that they can't cross state lines.
Right.
That would solve the problem of criminals having guns.
Yeah, because we know criminals follow the law. And if we just made it illegal, it would be great.
It's almost like if we put these guys in prison so they couldn't repeat offend or be encouraged to go commit crimes because they know there's just a slap on the wrist. Seems like that would work well too, because most gun crimes are committed by gangbangers. You and me, Jason, I own a gun. I think you own a gun. I'm not committing crimes with that gun.
Right. I'm just keeping it for when things get hairy.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, where do you want to go next, Todd? I was thinking we do that dude going into the DNC.
I love this clip so much. Folks, I don't know if you've heard, when Kamala Harris was hosting rallies a week or two ago, you had to have an ID to get into that rally. So you need to prove who you are to go listen to Kamala speak. Kamala wants a world where you don't have to prove who you are when you cast a ballot in elections. But it gets even worse than that, because now in Chicago, as the DNC concludes, they had to build a perimeter wall around Chicago where the DNC was held. You had to have an ID to get past that border wall and through the security checkpoints and all of that. But fascinating moment as Steve Cortez tries to bring an illegal Venezuelan to the DNC and says, hey, you wanted him here. Can he just go listen to Kamala speak? And you just gotta watch this play out. This was great.
Steve Cortez here on the west side of Chicago, Democratic National Convention at United Center. The Democrats, of course, want open borders and want an endless stream of illegal migrants pouring into the United States. This is my new acquaintance, Edwin. Say hello.
My name is Edwin. Nice to meet you.
All right, Edwin is from Venezuela. And we're going to take Edwin into the DNC so that he can meet the Democrats who want open borders. He should meet his new friends, hear the speakers, and learn about the Democratic Party. So, Edwin, let's head in, shall we?
Excelente.
Right.
Excelente.
This is Edwin from Venezuela, migrant, invited in by the Democratic Party. He'd like to come into the Democratic Convention.
You have to get your credentials. Yep, you have to go to Jackson.
Yep. Wait, you mean he needs credentials and permission to come in?
Yes.
To get past the wall?
Yes.
Oh, it's like a border wall in a way, huh?
Yeah. You have to have ID, credentials. He can come
Okay,
in.
to come to the United States?
No.
Not to come to the United States. Okay, but to come to the Democratic Convention.
Here, baby.
Okay. You believe in security. You believe in securing a boundary. Edwin can't come in.
Without credentials.
That's all I know.
I commend you on guarding this border. You're doing it very effectively, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Hi there. We would like to get some credentials for Edwin. Come on, Edwin. Edwin is from Venezuela.
I am right.
So we tried to get Edwin into the convention. He's a migrant from Venezuela. No organization, just American. And he's a migrant from Venezuela. Wanted to get into the convention. We figured that they would love to have a migrant from Venezuela come in. They said we need to get credentials. So we're here to get the credentials.
Okay. Has anyone filled out an application for him?
So you have to. There's a process in the application. He didn't have that at the border.
Okay. I have my own personal beliefs on this, but right now I'm showing custody. I've asked him to turn the camera off.
Just to be clear, we have been ejected from the DNC credentialing office because we're not permitted to be here. We don't have permission. We didn't go through the application process. It seems like the United States would use similar rules about crossing the U.S. border. DNC doesn't believe in that, but they do believe in it for their own convention. This is Edwin. He's from Venezuela. He's a migrant. Democratic Party wants an endless stream of migrants into America, so I'd like him to go and meet his political friends, listen to the speeches, and come in the Democratic Convention. Well, you're laughing. He's allowed to come to the United States without identification or permission. Can he come into the DNC?
I don't think the Secret Service is going to go for it.
They're not going to go for it? Well, they went for it at the border.
Well, maybe he can get credentials.
Stop. How can we help you, sir? We'd like to get Edwin in. The Democratic Party invited him into America from Venezuela. We'd like to get Edwin in to meet his Democratic friends.
No, they
Do you need credentials to go in the United States?
We're done.
Do you need credentials to go in the United States? So we do need credentials here to get past this heavily armed barrier. Well, Edwin, Kamala Harris has an open border. You're allowed in America. You're not allowed into her party. Oh well, Edwin, we tried. 2 gates, credentials, 0 for 3. That's a strikeout in BS both. See? Did I strike? We're out.
Podría haber una diferencia.
Said it's same in Caracas, same in Venezuela.
Yeah.
I love that video so much.
Doesn't that encapsulate the Democrats so well?
Yeah, and it's funny because Democrat voters don't realize, and this has been some of my favorite content that we've seen over the last few months. It was like Ron DeSantis sending illegals to Martha's Vineyard, and
You got the same vibe.
yeah, same vibe. So you don't need an ID to come in the country. They'll let you in. You don't need an ID to vote. Like, we're in Minnesota. Literally on the driver's license application, there's one line that says, "Are you a citizen? Yes. Would you like to register to vote? Yes." And all you got to do is hit yes, and they register you to vote. Now, theoretically, they might catch that you're not a citizen down the road, maybe, but then they just send you a ballot and you can vote, or you can show up at a polling station and go, "Hey, I'm whatever this guy's name is. I'd like to vote." And they don't even check for ID. But to go into the Democrat National Convention, like, they have beautiful walls built. Beautiful walls.
Yeah, you're not
And
getting up those walls. Heavily
not getting
armed,
through
as
those
Cortez pointed out. I see a lot of police officers, a lot of people protecting that border.
They want to defund the police. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on the overnight shift, they run 3 police officers for the whole city of Pittsburgh. But if you look at the DNC, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8 or 9 officers at one gate at the DNC. That's more police probably than we have in Minneapolis at night. It is insane.
Now, I guarantee no Democrat voter has seen this because it's Steve Cortez, but they must know this is a thing, right? Like, and you watch this and you think, like, my God, they're telling me one thing and then acting a completely different way. All these wealthy elites that vote Democrat, they have their gated communities. They've got their private security details that are armed. But no, you can't have a gun. You can't have a country with a secure border. Jason, we keep asking the question every week, like, how are you this dense?
Right. Yeah, and that one of the things we ask for people that watch our show, and I gotta say, shout out to our audience. Like, you guys, we're seeing a lot of the same names. We got Paul Reese from Split Rock Coffee on there. Valley. I mean, we got a lot of repeat viewers. We get 5,000-10,000 on Rumble that watch it over the weekend. Like, we really appreciate it. And we always encourage you, share this content with people you might not politically agree with, because I guarantee they didn't see that Chris Cuomo clip we started the show with. They didn't see the Steve Cortez, and they haven't mentally processed, why is it racist to ask somebody for a driver's license to vote, but not to get into the DNC?
How is Kamala Harris and the entire Democrat Party not getting accused of xenophobia right now for turning Edwin away because he didn't have an ID? Right? Isn't that the line? If Edwin needs an ID to vote, that's racist, but not when you get to the DNC, apparently. And Jason, I want to call this out. James, thanks for commenting here. Hypocrisy at its best. Illegals can cross the border, but not the Democrat National Convention. I always it's not hypocrisy. It is simply hierarchy. They know what they're doing. They don't care if you know or not, because what are you going to do about it? Like, Jason and I can rant about it all we want. Until enough Americans get pissed off, nothing changes, and they know that, and they do not care.
Well, and that's, you made really an important point people need to understand. Those folks on the floor at the DNC clapping like seals and going along, as you have multi-millionaires and billionaires on stage railing against debt inequality and here's what we're going to do for you. Like, they're subjecting themselves through this, and mentally their brain has broken where they can say, yeah, this is somehow different.
Yeah,
like,
Trump a billionaire, bad. Pritzker billionaire, good, because he said Donald Trump's name in a negative way, and I like him because of that. That's all they have at this point. There's no logic to their thinking. Well,
right.
Thinking. Nobody's thinking. I like Kathy's comment here. Anyone who would vote again for what we have been handed the last 3.5 years, I'm sorry, you're an idiot, a moron, and there's no help for you. And as a result, there will be no help for us if the Democrats win the next election. Jason, honestly, this is the conclusion I've come to. Thanks for your comment, Kathy. I can't be nice anymore. You are simply stupid. Brainwashed, yes, but also stupid for not figuring it out on your own. Like, CNN lied about that Trump hoax. CNN covered for Joe Biden's senility. Nobody liked Kamala Harris, and now I use CNN as the proxy for all state media at this point, but nobody questions this. They get lied over and over again too, and okay, now they're telling the truth.
And I gotta say, Kathy, I do got to fact check you and address your language. I think the appropriate word is you're retarded. Because I grew up in a day where you could call somebody a retard and they knew you weren't making fun of disabled people. They just knew you were telling somebody they were beyond an idiot. Kind of like I grew up in a trailer park, right? And I've talked about this on the show. We grew up kind of poor. I was in a trailer park. When somebody used the word trailer park trash, I knew that didn't apply to me. We were God-fearing people who worked hard, who were poor. We knew what trailer park trash is. It's the guy on the other side of the trailer park who's drunk at 10 in the morning, who beat his kid, hasn't cleaned his yard, is living off welfare. Like, that's trailer park trash. I am not, just because I live in a trailer park. Retard. I'm trying to normalize the use of retard. So if you hear me use it in the show, I want us to get back to a day where we can say the word retarded and we know it means just idiot people who are standing on the floor of the DNC going, I love 30% inflation.
I love Pritzker being a billionaire and he wants me to making 6 figures a year to pay all my money to the government. Yeah,
right.
Martin's on the idiot train too. If you vote for Democrats, you are an idiot and a moron, just like the guy said. Yeah.
Right.
You are. There you are. You are a moron. You're an idiot. You're stupid. I think I pulled up the thesaurus last week just to figure out how many words we could use to describe these people. Retarded worked for me.
And Todd's a smart one of the group. Like, he was a teacher and he
hold
likes
on.
words. I'm just like,
educators are not intelligent just because they are teachers.
you know what I mean?
As an administrator later on, you realize how stupid most of these people are. And they all vote Democrat, Jason. So right away, they're all retarded too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm just a normal guy. I'm just like, let's just call them retards. Todd's like, I'm gonna pull up the thesaurus because we don't just want to use retards. But folks, give us a retard in the chat. Anyways, where do we go next? God, I'm just
so much to cover here. We promised Kinzinger. I know the clock is running out for our hour here. We've got to get this. Just talking about retarded. TDS has melted this guy's brain so badly. Here is a self-described Republican showing up to the DNC saying that Democrats represent the party of America. There's only one word to describe him, and it starts with the letter R, but take a listen.
And tonight, as a Republican speaking before you, I'm putting our country first.
He looks like he's going to cry.
Because the fact is, I do belong here. I know Kamala Harris shares my allegiance to the rule of law, the Constitution, and democracy. And she is dedicated to upholding all three in service to our country. Whatever policies we disagree on pale in comparison with those fundamental matters of principle, of decency, and of fidelity to this nation.
Like all good leftists, he uses a lot of words that sound good. There is zero substance to anything he just said. And they do not care that they want to take away your Second Amendment rights. The government worked with big tech companies to silence you during the pandemic. That goes against the First Amendment. But sure, she wants to uphold the Constitution and the principles of a limited government. I'm just a stupid guy. I understand the Constitution enough to realize, it seems like they don't like any of the amendments in there.
I was going to say my favorite part is where he says policy differences aside. Let me be clear. If you're a politician, your only effing job is making public policy and laws. It doesn't matter what you think, what you feel, what you say. At the end of the day, it's what laws and policies you enact. That is the definition of being a politician. What he is describing might be an interviewer or an influencer or something. If Kamala Harris were running for a seat.
Oh, hang in there, Jason.
I got too fired up. If Kamala Harris were running to host a podcast, what she thinks or feels or her values might matter. You are electing somebody to implement policy in the United States of America. The policy difference, the policy she's proposing, are the antithesis of what our founders wrote in the Constitution. So everything Adam says is beyond idiotic. We elect lawmakers to enact laws and policies. And when those policies don't align with the Constitution, we shouldn't implement them. It's like student loan forgiveness. Everybody runs a parade because Joe did more student loan forgiveness, and then it's going to get thrown out because it's against the Constitution. It is insane. And I got to say, I would call Adam Kinzinger retarded, but he blocked me on Twitter like 6 months ago.
There was that meme of I won't get into that. Facebook won't like that very much. Maybe we'll save that for Rumble only. The other thing, though, this is where you need to be a grown-up. Adam Kinzinger is talking about feelings. I like Kamala Harris because she's a good person. Again, nothing about policy. He kind of admits he doesn't even agree with her policy, but he's too good of a person to focus on, how that'll impact America. I just need to feel good about myself. For everyone out there that is on the fence, I don't care how you feel about Donald Trump. And most of all, it's all a lie anyways, because that's all you hear from the media about how Donald Trump's a bad person. Insert this word here to describe him derogatorily. You need to be a grown-up and vote for Donald Trump, because this is a contest between policy differences like we have never seen before on the two tickets. Either you want communism or you don't want communism. That is all I care about. I will vote for Donald Trump 10 times in Minnesota if I'm allowed to, since they don't check your ID, apparently. You have to be a grown-up and vote for Donald Trump. Otherwise, you are voting for communism. I don't care how you feel about Trump. I don't care how you feel about Kamala. I personally don't care what Trump does in his personal life. I don't care what he says. I care how he governs, because I am electing a president who is designed to govern. He is not my best friend. He's not my kid's role model. I don't care about any of that.
Well, and Todd said one of the most important things as we wrap up this first hour too, and that is Adam Kinzinger got up there. The number one job you elect a president for is not how they make you feel, what they think. The number one thing you elect them to do is enact policy. What policies are you going to do? Are they going to be constitutional? Are they going to be good for Americans? And he's flat out saying, listen to him. He is saying, I don't care about our policy differences. I just care that she makes me feel good. This is the idiocy. Oh, and I got to give a shout out to Susan Hudson too, tagging a few active friends on Facebook. Feel free to add a comment here and help push this note to your own friends' newsfeed so we can help educate more people about this important topic. I'm still amazed how many people don't add personal messages, invites. How about you? Hey, thanks for that, Susan. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, we're trying to get this message. Yes, share this, like Jason says, like we say every week. Share this with a friend that voted for Biden in 2020, or it has consistently been a Democrat. Gets ugly feelings about Donald Trump because he made that one comment one time, and they believe what the media tells them about him. This podcast is for those folks as much as it is for, viewers that align with Jason and my values here. We need to change minds in this country. And again, you got to be a grown-up and vote on policy. Set those personal issues aside. Who cares? You're not voting for a father or a friend. You're voting for a president. And you want that president to do good things for your country. That's it.
Well, and it's funny because the one thing the Uniparty fears is that, Todd and I don't identify as Republicans. We think establishment Republicans are trash.
Case in point, Adam Kinzinger right there.
Right. We think America first is the way to go. I want us to be more isolationist. I don't want us to be involved in all these foreign wars. I think our government's ripping off our citizens and selling us out to corporations or to the big education industry, all those things. There are Democrats that feel that way. Democrats used to talk like that, and they still kind of do, but there are Democrats that are waking up to know that their party is now as corrupt or more corrupt than the Republicans used to be. Because when I was growing up, that was why I had a hard time voting for a Republican, because they were so corrupt. But now Democrats have taken that ball and run with it.
Yeah. Jason, I got one more clip to show. I know lots to say on that, but we're kind of up on the hour. One more clip to show just the lack of self-awareness. This is what we're up against, folks. This is why we encourage you and hope you'll share what you're listening to today. But this lady comes on stage, says this with a straight face, and I don't even know if I have to preface it. This is that bad.
Donald Trump would be able to weaponize the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents. He could even turn the FBI into his own personal police force. That is not how it works in America.
News to me.
That's how it works in dictatorships.
I think she's a state senator from Michigan. Everything about her is unappealing. And when she talks, you're just like, my goodness, I think she believes that.
how do these people get up and with the straight face talk about he will weaponize the government against his political opponents? So, I mean, aside from what Donald Trump is going through, you've got 2,500 January 6ers locked up. You have Peter Navarro locked up. He's out now. Steve Bannon locked up. How do they say it with a straight face?
You can pray at an abortion clinic and get thrown in prison or have your home raided in front of your family. Yeah, but Donald Trump's going to be the one that weaponizes the regime against people.
And what's funny, too, is these guys will say, well, that's because he's a criminal. But wait, if they're not criminals, Donald Trump won't be able to go after them, right, Todd?
Which one is it?
Which one is it? On that note, we got to shut down Facebook, YouTube, all that. Head over to Rumble. Now, folks, this part, we love our Facebook audience. We love the YouTube audience. There's some topics we want to talk about that we can't do on these platforms because they suppress, they will ding our pages, that sort of thing. So we encourage people to go over to Rumble. You'll find our channel at The American Tribune. And under the live tab, you'll find our stream. We got usually between like 15 and 30 people watching live. So you got a good crowd over there. But we've got to say a few things about this DNC that we can't say on some of these platforms.
Hint, Tim Walz.
Tim Walz.
Jason, before we go, we got to pay the bills. Folks, I'm going to do a quick read from our sponsors at Gold Coat. Jason, do you have your silver on you by any chance?
Oh, Todd, I always have.
Is it just sitting on your desk here? I might get. All right, I got something today. Folks, Jason and I are big believers in diversifying our portfolio. This is not financial advice, but you can look around and see that the fiat system is crumbling fast here. And so if you watch our show, you know how we feel about our government and our financial system. So it's no secret, we're a big believer in diversifying our money with precious metals like gold and silver. But when it comes to buying precious metals, you need the right company in your corner. That's why we've partnered with the top-rated precious metal company, GoldGo, because reputation matters. GoldGo is a 6-time Incorporated 5,000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year, and they've helped people like you and me place over $2 billion in gold and silver. And right now, they're offering our supporters up to $10,000 in bonus silver when opening a qualified IRA account. This is your opportunity to protect yourself from our out-of-control, corrupt government. Don't pass it up. Grab your phone or your keyboard or whatever you need to get the job done, and take action today. Visit handsoffmywealth.com. That's handsoffmywealth.com, or click on the link in the video description.
Yeah, and I got to say, folks, a lot of economic data coming out. And it's funny, wasn't covered in the mainstream news, but they revised the jobs report, overstated by 880,000 over the past 6 months.
Yeah, an accounting error.
Yeah, a little accounting error.
That's a rounding error.
If you haven't done it, and you can reach out to Goldco, one of the big things they do is help move your 401k into a precious metals. You can also just buy gold and silver coins from them. These are little $30 silver standing eagles, and they're great to work with. We like them. That's where we get our precious metals from. So, yeah. With that, let's head over to Rumble.
We'll see you on Rumble at the American Tribune. See you in 60 seconds, folks.